Welcome back to Real Reddit Moments, where we're not afraid to tackle the extremes of accidents, the fine line between intentional and unintentional, and the am I a bad person moments that make you wonder, could a small mistake ever lead to such a horrific outcome? Today, we're diving into a story that shook the Reddit community, one that even horror filmmakers would take their hats off to for its unexpected and terrifying consequences. What happens when a small, seemingly harmless action lands a co-worker in the hospital and almost kills her? The story is titled AITA for pushing a co-worker into the hospital and almost killing her. Is OP an irresponsible person, a victim of misfortune, or someone facing the unforeseen consequences of his actions? Find out and let us know what you think. This story comes from Reddit user AccidentallyFatal. We'll call him OP, who is living with extreme regret after a horrific incident at work. OP works in an office where he has a female co-worker whom we'll call Coworker Karen. Karen is known for being a nuisance, talking loudly on her personal phone, distracting everyone. Despite being reminded many times, Karen continues this habit, especially when receiving lengthy calls from friends or family. OP and many other co-workers find it very annoying. Karen's loudness disrupts work, affects productivity, and creates a tense atmosphere in the office. Everyone tries to ignore it, but there are times when Karen's talking is so loud it becomes unbearable. One day, Karen was on a long phone call, talking loudly about personal matters unrelated to work. OP had reached the limit of his patience. He felt extremely frustrated and distracted. In that moment, OP saw a water balloon which was left behind by a co-worker after a small company party the previous weekend. On a whim and somewhat thoughtless thought, OP threw the balloon at Karen, intending only for the balloon to burst near her, creating a loud noise and startling her, interrupting the noisy phone call. He thought that would be a way to release his frustration and hoped Karen would understand and keep quiet. OP had no intention of harming Karen. It was just a spontaneous act of annoyance, a slightly overdone joke to end the noise. However, things took a turn for the worst. The water-filled balloon flew straight into Karen's temple. Due to the force of the impact, or some unfortunate factor, Karen fell face down on the desk, and her head hit the edge of the table very hard. Karen immediately lost consciousness. Everyone in the office was stunned and panicked. The OP, who had just caused the incident, was completely horrified. He couldn't believe what had just happened. Everyone called an ambulance, and Karen was rushed to the hospital. At the hospital, doctors said Karen had a severe concussion and needed emergency surgery. She was hospitalized for weeks in critical condition, and doctors said she almost died. This incident turned a spontaneous act into a horrific accident with unpredictable consequences. OP is devastated. He is suspended from work pending investigation. Even though he had no intention of harming Karen, he was the one who threw the balloon. OP is haunted by guilt and fear. He wonders, AITA, am I the bad guy who almost killed my co-worker in a moment of impulse? OP's post exploded on Reddit, becoming one of the most controversial and shocking stories of all time. The community reacted strongly, divided into several factions, but one faction dominated with harsh criticism: supporters. This number is extremely small. A few comments tried to defend OP by focusing on Karen's annoying behavior and OP not intentionally causing harm. NTA, Karen brought this on herself by being so loud. You didn't mean to hurt her, it was an accident. This comment was often heavily criticized and downvoted by the community. Some neutral comments acknowledged that both sides were at fault, but emphasized that OP's actions had much more serious consequences. ESH. Karen is AITA for being loud and disrespectful to the shared workspace, but OP is a much bigger AITA for using physical violence to resolve the issue. The consequences are far greater than the initial offensive behavior. This is a tragedy. Karen was wrong to make noise, but OP was even more wrong to respond with a physical act that could have caused harm. Even if it was unintentional, you are still responsible for your actions. The vast majority of the Reddit community has been harshly critical of OP, stating that she is a terrible person for using physical violence to solve a small problem, leading to horrific consequences. YTA. Absolutely YTA. You used a flying object to throw at your coworker for making noise. That is assault, regardless of your intentions. Her serious injury was a direct result of your actions. You are not the victim here. This comment has received tens of thousands of upvotes and multiple Reddit awards. You've crossed the line. There are many ways to deal with a noise problem. Talk to a manager, put on headphones, move. Throwing things at people is never a reasonable solution. No matter how annoying Karen is, she did not deserve to be so severely injured. You must take full responsibility for your actions. This was an assault, not a prank. You almost killed her over a water balloon? You should have known the consequences of throwing objects at people. Your outburst ruined another person's life. This is no longer an AITA issue. This is a will you be prosecuted issue. Out of the strong comments from all sides, one comment really struck a chord and resonated with many because it highlighted the seriousness of the situation and the consequences of not controlling yourself. YTA. It doesn't matter how annoying she is. You chose to solve a small problem by escalating it into physical violence. This was not an accident. This was a direct result of your poor decision and lack of emotional control. Karen's life has been changed forever because of your outburst. Pray she recovers and that you don't face criminal charges. This comment received thousands of upvotes and awards representing the strong YTA stance and sharp reasoning. The Reddit community not only delivered the verdict, but actively engaged and expanded this thread into many more thoughtful discussions. Workplace safety, a heated debate about the employer's responsibility to maintain a safe work environment and resolve conflicts between employees. Anger management. Many people advised OP to seek help for anger management and impulsive behavior. Legal consequences. Discussions about the possibility of OP facing criminal charges and civil litigation from Karen. Personal responsibility. Emphasize that even if it wasn't intentional, OP is still responsible for her actions and the consequences. Personal experience. Countless stories of dealing with co-workers unpleasant, but none escalated to physical violence. Overall, the Reddit community has strongly condemned OP's actions, calling it a horrifying example of how overreaction can lead to tragedy. After receiving a barrage of harsh criticism from the Reddit community, OP has come to terms with the harsh reality of the situation. He has provided some important updates on what happened next and how he feels. Summary of updates. Karen's condition. Karen is out of danger and slowly recovering. However, she still faces long-term effects from her concussion. Corporate fallout. OP was fired immediately following an internal investigation. The company has also expressed its deep apologies to Karen and her family. Legal fallout. OP is facing possible criminal charges for assault. Karen's family is also considering a civil lawsuit for damages. OP has hired a lawyer and is preparing for a lengthy legal battle. Remorse and obsession. OP is devastated. He was haunted by the image of Karen falling and her terrified face. He could not sleep, constantly thinking about what he had done and the consequences it had caused to Karen and her family, as well as to his own life. OP now feels hopeless, extremely remorseful, and extremely scared. His life has completely changed because of a moment of loss of control. Not only did he lose his job, his reputation, but he also faces jail time and a huge debt from the lawsuit. OP realizes that there is no excuse for his actions, and he is paying a heavy price for that impulsiveness. He only wishes Karen a full recovery, and he is ready to face any legal consequences that come his way. OP's story is a painful lesson in the unintended consequences of lack of restraint and violent conflict resolution. It highlights core issues of personal responsibility, workplace safety, and the importance of emotional control. Conflicting emotions in the story OPs. Initially frustration, anger, and impulsiveness. Then horror, shock, and utter regret at the consequences. Finally, despair, fear, and bleakness in the face of the future. Karen's victim. From innocence or lack of awareness of the nuisance, to pain, distress, and possibly anger or fear in the face of the aftermath. Reddit community. From outrage for OP, to empathy for Karen, to moral, legal, and safety analysis. The Reddit community, in this case, acted as a powerful court of justice and a voice of social conscience. They delivered a near-absolute verdict, criticizing the OP's actions and emphasizing their severity. While that criticism may have been harsh on the OP, it also served as a stark reminder of the boundaries of acceptable behavior in society and the workplace. This proves that Reddit can be a place to find the raw truth and objective consequences, no matter how painful that truth may be. Character analysis B. Accidental. Represents an individual who lost control of his emotions in a moment of time and caused a catastrophic consequence. He shows deep remorse, but is also an example of how a rash action can ruin a life. Coworker Karen, victim. Represents a person who has committed an annoying act, but becomes the victim of an unforeseeable act of violence, suffering severe injuries. Company and co-workers act as the environment where the incident occurs and also the direct witnesses to the consequences of the impulse. Lessons learned. The unintended consequences of an impulsive action. A small act, outburst of anger, can lead to serious and irreversible consequences, changing the life of many people. Emotional control is crucial. Learning to manage emotions, especially anger and frustration, is an essential life skill to avoid making bad decisions that can be harmful. Violence is never the answer. Under no circumstances is using violence, even throwing an object, to resolve a conflict wrong, and can have serious legal and ethical consequences. Workplace safety. The story highlights the importance of maintaining a safe work environment where everyone feels respected and where there are clear, non-violent channels for resolving conflicts. Personal responsibility. While the intention may not be malicious, once an action has consequences, the person who committed the action must take full responsibility for them. The cost of lack of control. The story is a cautionary tale about how a moment of lack of control can lead to job loss, legal trouble, and a lifetime of guilt. OP's story is a chilling reminder of how life can change in the blink of an eye with one wrong decision. It is a clear proof that each of our actions has weight and can cause huge ripples in the lives of others. It is a call to always think carefully before acting, learn to control emotions, and seek peaceful solutions to any conflicts, because sometimes the price to pay for impulsiveness is too high. What do you think of this horrifying story? If you were OP, what would you do differently? Have you ever witnessed a similar incident at work? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for following Real Reddit Moments. See you in the next story.